I'm Audrey with Cre8ability, and today I'm going to show you how to make our recycled sculpture, like this one. What you're going to need for this project are recycled materials. We've already sent you some. Feel free to add anything else that you'd like to put on your board. A board, mine is plain white. Paints, any color you like to use. Glue, you can also use a hot glue gun. That might be a little quicker if you have one. Paper plates or something to put your paint on. Paper towels, we know things get messy. Water for your brushes, and paint brushes. It's really your choice though. If you want to use paint, that's great, but you're also welcome to use markers or crayons, whatever works best for you. There are 4 main steps to today's project. First, we're going to decorate our pieces, paint our pieces. Second, we're going to allow them to dry. This might take a little while. Third, we're going to arrange them on the board. However you like to arrange them, we encourage you to be creative. And lastly, we're going to glue them on, and that might mean that an adult needs to do that without the child's help, or maybe it's something that the child can also help with. So we're going to get started here. Don't be intimidated. I know this looks really fast. I sped it up because I spent quite a while doing this. But really, it can be as detailed or as simple as you like. You can decorate each little piece and put a lot of thought into it. But maybe that's not where you are. Maybe your kiddo is, mixing paints and turning it brown. That's okay too. We do recommend picking just a few colors to prevent all the mixture. But really, here at Cre8ability, we really value process over product. And what that means to us is that we really think that the creating of the art, having that freedom and that control, is what makes making art special. And if it happens to look great at the end, that's awesome. But really, we believe that the making of the art is what makes art special and what feels really good about making art. So we encourage you to let your kiddo have a little bit of freedom here. If they're mixing the colors and it's not looking so pretty to you, that's okay. That's not the point. And if they need a little help along the way, that's fine too. I also encourage you to give them as much time and space as they need for this project. They might want to get really detailed. That's great. They might not. That's fine too. They also might want to take a couple of breaks. They might get uninterested or frustrated or something, and that's totally fine. Encourage them to take a break and come back to it when they're ready, maybe on another day, or just 20 minutes later, whatever works for that kiddo. So we really want you to encourage your kid to be creative and do whatever feels right for them throughout this whole process. This can be quite a long project if they're very detailed, and that's okay. I just encourage you to pick a time when you don't have anywhere to be soon and they can use all the time that they want. Now we're going to move on to step 2, which is to let our items dry. I recommend using something like newspaper or a bag or a trash bag, laying out on the table and putting all of the items on there until they're dry. If you use crayons and markers, you can skip this step because all of your stuff should be ready to start placing. But I recommend laying it out and giving it plenty of time to dry. We want that glue to stick and we want our piece to stay together at the end. So give plenty of time to dry. That could be a couple of hours. It could be 20 minutes. It really depends on how much paint your kiddo used. Just make sure that you give plenty of time to dry. So it's time to arrange. I have all my pieces and they're dry. And I'm going to start laying them out on my plain white board and play around with it until it's exactly the way I want it. I encourage you to let your kiddo do this, encourage them to be creative and stack and put things inside of one another, work on those spatial skills. It's super fun to see how all of your colorful pieces come together on the board. And you might be surprised. They might come up with something that you never would have thought of. This is super fun part of the project, putting it all together, placing it there. I recommend taking a photo of it, so when you glue, especially if your kiddo isn't part of that process, when you glue, you're making it exactly the way they intended. So take a photo and we're ready to glue. So it's time to glue. We have our pieces exactly where we want them. I do recommend, if you are worried that your kid might not understand why you're sort of dismantling their project, to glue it back together, to do some what I call pre-teaching and explain what you're going to do before you do it, and sort of mentally prepare them that you're going to be taking their piece apart so you can put it back together. Here's where that photo comes in handy for sure too, to make sure we're getting it the way it was. I recommend gluing those bottom items first and then gluing whatever goes on top afterwards, especially if your kiddo has done a lot of cool stacking and worked on some super cool spatial skills. You might also, towards the end, want to give it a little shake and make sure you didn't miss any items when you were gluing. Make sure everything's on nice and steady. If you do decide to use a hot glue gun, that might make your project a little quicker, maybe a little less sturdy over time, but definitely easily fixable. But I really want to encourage you to be very, very careful if you're using a hot glue gun, as they are not meant for children. They're definitely not meant to be used without an adult present. So please, please, please be careful and don't get burned. But now is also a good time to remain a little flexible too. If your learner wants to switch it up or make some last minute changes, that's okay too. So enjoy gluing, and we're almost done. It's important to remember that everybody's sculpture is going to look different. You might like darker colors or brighter colors. You might stack things creatively. Your kids might stack things or play around with things in a way that you never thought. And we want to encourage that. That's their creativity showing, right? It's also important to remember that there's no right or wrong way to do this. If it seems upside down to you but right side up to them, that's absolutely fine. And you'll see that Kathy's project and my project are so different, and that's what I like about them. I always like to sign and date my pieces, especially pieces kids are doing, so as you look back on them, you know what age they were when they did them. So this project is complete.